When I got married, I never told my husband or my mother-in-law that the house we lived in was actually mine. And thank God I didn't. Because right after the wedding, both of them revealed their true colors. But wait, before I go on, do you often hear stories like this? Have you subscribed and hit like yet? I hope your day's going well as you listen to this one. He came into my life when I had promised myself to focus only on my career. Then Daniel appeared, the new head of sales. Tall, brown-eyed, with a warm smile that felt like it was meant just for me. I was a senior manager handling major clients. So naturally, we had to work closely together. One day, he told me, "Flora, you have a real gift for dealing with clients." Then he added, "How about we go over the new strategy over dinner?" I agreed, even though I usually avoided situations like that. That was 6 years ago. I had just turned 28 and had finally bought my first home, small but cozy, tucked in a quiet part of Seattle. I had worked relentlessly for it. Years of saving every penny, saying no to luxuries, even taking on extra projects. When I finally held the keys, I swore it would mark the beginning of an independent life. Dinner with Daniel stretched past midnight. We talked about everything except work. He told me about his travels, his dreams, and I realized how long it had been since I'd met someone that intriguing. When he walked me home, he asked where I lived. I hesitated. Something inside me didn't want him to see my house, the thing I cherished most. So I lied. "I rent an apartment near downtown," I said. He shrugged, explaining that he was currently living with his mother since he'd just moved back from Boston and hadn't found his own place yet, but it was temporary. Our relationship moved quickly. Daniel was thoughtful, always doing sweet little things, giving perfect gifts as if he could read my mind. The first time he stayed over, he walked around the house, inspecting every corner. "Your place is lovely. It feels so warm," he said. "I bet it wasn't too expensive, right?" Once again, I lied. "It belongs to my aunt. She's living with my cousin in Florida right now, so she lets me stay here." "You're lucky to have an aunt like that," he said, running his hand along the wall like he was evaluating something. "Houses like this are pretty pricey these days." Something in his tone made me uneasy, but I brushed it off. 2 weeks later, he introduced me to his mother, Mrs. Eleanor Pierce. Around 60, with sharp eyes, an upright posture, and the air of a school principal, she looked me over like she was assessing merchandise, then smiled stiffly. "So, Danny finally brought home someone who suits him." That dinner was painfully awkward. She kept grilling me about my job, my family, my plans, especially my family background. "So it's just your aunt now? Where does she live?" she asked. I gave vague answers, trying to dodge her probing gaze. When Daniel stepped outside for a cigarette, she took my hand and said in a sweet but calculated voice, "Flora, I can tell you're a good girl, the kind Daniel needs. Simple, thrifty, with a bright future ahead. I'm happy for you." Her tone sounded fake, though I couldn't pinpoint why. When Daniel returned and saw my expression, he said, "Don't mind my mom. She just worries about me. Ever since my parents divorced, she's been on her own." "Since when did they divorce?" I asked. "When I was 5, he said. My dad left the country, and no one's heard from him since." I nodded sympathetically, though something about his story sounded rehearsed. Still, Daniel's affection felt genuine, and slowly, I let my doubts fade. 3 months later, he proposed. It was at the same restaurant where we first met. He suddenly knelt down and said, "Flora, you're the best thing that's ever happened to me. Will you marry me?" The diamond ring sparkled in the candlelight. My heart raced. 100 thoughts flashed through my mind, but I still said yes. From then on, wedding planning became a battlefield. Daniel's mother wanted to control everything, from the flower colors to the guest list. Daniel acted supportive on the surface, but when it came to decisions, he always took her side. "My mom never gives bad advice," he'd say proudly. "She used to be a principal, so she knows how to organize things. My mom's a natural manager. Her school used to be the best in the state," Daniel said. I grew suspicious and decided to check. I called the school he mentioned and asked about Eleanor Pierce. The secretary sounded confused. "There's never been a principal by that name." Maybe you mean Mrs. Eleanor Simmons. She was principal about 10 years ago. That small lie changed the way I saw my future mother-in-law. What else had she made up? And why was Daniel going along with it? One day, while we were working on the invitations, I asked, "What about your family?" "Who are we inviting?" He paused. "I don't have much family left, just a few cousins on my mom's side, but they probably won't come." "As for friends and coworkers?" He hesitated, then added, "I'm not big on big parties. But you should invite your aunt," bringing up my aunt yet again. Both he and his mother kept mentioning my aunt more and more, her age, her health, her memory, how she managed living alone. I maintained the lie, feeling it had taken on a life of its own. For some reason, a quiet voice inside me insisted I shouldn't reveal the truth about the house. Not because I doubted Daniel, but because something whispered, "Keep your last card." A week before the wedding, I accidentally overheard a conversation between Daniel and his mother. That day I had come home early. The moment I opened the door, voices came from the kitchen. "Mom, don't start again," Daniel said. "Time doesn't wait for anyone, son," Eleanor replied coldly. The aunt could return at any moment or make a move. "Are the papers ready?" "Yes, Keller's prepared everything. We just need one signature. Then act right after the wedding. Don't be slow like last time. Remember how that ended?" I froze, my heart raced. Last time? What did she mean? Eleanor chuckled. "That was different back then. It was just an apartment. This time it's a whole house. And Flora isn't as dumb as that one was. Everyone looks smart until they fall in love." Her small laugh sent shivers down my spine. Terrified, I quietly stepped back toward the door, then slammed it shut loudly, pretending I had just arrived. "I'm home," I called, forcing casualness into my voice. Daniel peeked out and smiled. "Mom brought some salad for tomorrow." "You're home early." I forced a smile. The meeting was effectively canceled. When I walked into the kitchen, I greeted Eleanor. She was sitting at the table, and the moment she saw me, she quickly shoved some papers into her purse. "Flora, you look pale," she said, feigning concern. "I'm just a little tired. Work's been busy," I replied calmly. "Don't worry. Soon you'll have time to rest," she smiled. "After the wedding, you two will have your honeymoon. Then you'll settle into this beautiful house." "Oh, and your aunt isn't coming to the wedding." At that moment, she and Daniel exchanged a glance. That's when I knew my instincts had been right. Something about this was filthy, deeply wrong. Even after hearing that conversation, I didn't cancel the wedding. Partly because I didn't want to believe Daniel could be involved, but mostly because I needed to see what would happen next. I've always been the type to take risks, which is probably why I chose to live alone. Danger, whether in business or in life, has never scared me. I've always known how to make hard decisions. The wedding itself was simple. We signed the marriage papers and had a small celebration with a few close friends and relatives. Sadly, my real aunt couldn't attend. At 82, such a long trip was too much for her. Eleanor Pierce acted extremely friendly with my parents, constantly praising them. "It's a shame your mother couldn't make it," she said. "Flora always speaks so fondly about her and the beautiful house she says you live in." My mom looked puzzled. "I'm sorry, but you must be mistaken. I only live in a one-bedroom apartment." Eleanor froze for a moment, then recovered quickly. "Oh, I'm so sorry. Must have mixed things up with all the wedding information flying around." After that, she stopped being friendly with my parents. I tried to explain it was just a misunderstanding, but the look she gave me said it all. She knew I was hiding something. We didn't go on a honeymoon because Daniel was busy with work. Instead, he moved in with me, and our married life officially began. The first few days were wonderful. Daniel was gentle at first, helping around the house, even making me breakfast. But gradually, things started to change. He began staying late at work, coming home tired and quiet. His mother called several times a day, and they always whispered as if afraid I might overhear. One evening, Daniel came home with flowers and a bottle of wine. "I want to celebrate the 15th day of our marriage," he said, smiling and kissing me lightly. "And I have something important to tell you." We had dinner, sipped wine, and just when I thought the evening would be ordinary, there was a knock at the door. Eleanor Pierce stood there holding a cake. "I didn't mean to intrude," she said, her smile unreadable. "I just wanted to see how you two are doing." She glanced at Daniel, and I immediately knew this surprise visit had been planned. "Perfect timing, Mom," Daniel said. "We were just about to talk about the future." "Oh, the future? That sounds interesting," she replied, sitting down and scanning the room as if appraising it. "A young family should always have a clear plan." I poured tea, trying to hide my unease. "My gut told me something significant was coming. Mom and I have been talking," Daniel began, wrapping an arm around me. "We've been thinking about the future." "I'm listening," I said, keeping my tone calm. "Flora," he said softly, "we have to think ahead. Career, children, family life?" "Exactly," Eleanor cut in, shaking her head so her silver earrings jingled. "A young family needs a solid foundation. Stability is what truly matters." "I agree," I replied carefully. "But what exactly are you both implying?" "Daniel needs to move forward in his career," Eleanor said firmly. "He has far more potential than his current job allows. I've spoken to an old friend. He owns a construction company in Portland and is ready to make Daniel the sales director." I turned to Daniel, stunned. "You're changing jobs? Why didn't you tell me?" "I wanted to surprise you," he said, avoiding my eyes. "I was waiting for confirmation that everything was set." "The salary doubles. What about your current company?" I asked. "We still have a joint project." "You can handle your part?" he said, kissing me lightly. "Now I can take care of both of us even better." Something felt deeply wrong. Daniel had never complained about his old job, and he had no experience in construction. "When do you start?" I asked. "In 2 weeks," he said, still avoiding my gaze. "So everything's been arranged without even asking my opinion?" I asked, my chest tightening. He claimed he wanted to share good news. Eleanor noticed my displeasure and interrupted. "Flora, you should support your husband. This is a big step for your family." She smiled with a hint of meaning. "Soon you two will need the extra money." "Why would you say that?" I asked, staring at her. She glanced at her son, saying something without words. "Children are expensive, Flora. It's time you started thinking about that." I flushed with anger. Daniel and I had never seriously talked about having children. I wanted to be a mother, but not now, while my career was taking off. "We're not planning on having children," I said firmly. "At least not in the near future." Eleanor's expression instantly hardened. Her face went cold. "No plans?" She turned to Daniel. "Why didn't you tell me that?" Daniel looked trapped between us. "We haven't really talked about it yet." "What's there to talk about?" She snapped. "Children should be born while you're still young. And Flora, you're not 20 anymore." "I'm 29, I replied, keeping my composure. "I just want to focus on my career first." "Career?" She scoffed. "A career won't keep you warm when you're old. Children, grandchildren. Those are what truly matter," Daniel tried to calm her. "Mom, there's still time." Eleanor slammed her teacup onto the table, splashing tea. "Time waits for no one. Enough for tonight." "I'm leaving." When the door closed, I finally felt I could breathe again. Daniel looked at me apologetically. "Go easy on her. She just wants what's best for our future." "Our future, or yours?" I asked, clearing the table. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. Just odd how you two discuss pregnancy without me." He hugged me from behind, burying his face in my hair. "I love you and want a family with you. A normal, complete family." "That's funny," I said, "because you didn't ask for my opinion on your job or on children. This is both of our lives, Daniel. I want what's best for us." That phrase, I'd heard it too many times, always used as an excuse for every mistake. The next few days seemed normal. Daniel was kind again, cooked meals and stopped bringing up kids. But I could feel something had shifted. He spoke in low tones on the balcony, hid papers, avoided my eyes. One night, while looking for something in the closet, I found a strange folder. Inside were sale contracts, property deeds, wills, all listing Daniel Pierce multiple times as a beneficiary. There were also photos of middle-aged women with handwritten notes on the back. Linda Hoffman, Lakeside House, Spokane, Rebecca Allen, apartment 12, Lakeview Drive. A chill ran down my spine. What was this? Was Daniel involved in real estate or worse, conning wealthy single women? Just then, I heard a key turning in the door. I quickly put the folder back. Daniel walked in holding a bouquet. "Hey, sweetheart," he said with a smile. "I wanted to surprise you." I took the flowers and forced a smile. "Thank you. They're beautiful." The next day, he told me his company was throwing a small farewell party before he left. "You'll come, right?" he asked. "Of course," I said, though my mind was still on that hidden folder. "Who'll be there?" "Everyone from the team. I want to properly introduce them to you." That was strange. We'd worked together for over a year, and Daniel had never once seemed eager to introduce me to anyone. We'd agreed early on to keep our relationship at work private. Yet now, there was suddenly a farewell party. The next evening, I arrived late at the restaurant. Daniel was already there, sitting at the center of a large table surrounded by about 10 people, laughing and chatting. "And here's my beautiful wife," he said, standing as everyone turned to look. "Everyone, meet Flora." I smiled and greeted them, but something felt off. I didn't recognize a single face. None of them worked at our company. "Daniel, where are your coworkers?" I asked once I sat down. "They couldn't make it," he said casually. "But these are my close friends." That was odd. Daniel had never mentioned any of them before. Next to me sat a plump woman in her 50s who introduced herself. "I'm Margaret Phillips. So nice to finally meet Daniel's wife. I've heard so much about you." "Really?" I asked, surprised. "How do you know Daniel?" "Oh, we're old friends of his mother's. I used to work at the school where she taught." I frowned. As far as I knew, Eleanor Pierce had always been a principal. "Oh, right." Margaret hesitated. "She taught first, then became principal later." "And how long have you known Daniel?" "About a year, since he started working with us." "Us?" I repeated. "With Victor over there," she said, pointing to a middle-aged man at the end of the table. While I was still trying to make sense of it all, Daniel tapped his glass to get everyone's attention. "My friends," he began, "I want to raise a glass to a new chapter in my life, a new job, and most of all, to my beautiful wife who makes me happy every single day." Everyone applauded, but I sat there frozen, watching the faces around the table, realizing I didn't know any of them. And suddenly I wasn't sure I knew the man sitting beside me either. In the taxi ride home, I couldn't hold it in anymore. "Daniel, who are all those people? You said they were your coworkers." "I said they were friends, not coworkers," he replied, staring out the window. "Then who's Victor?" "An old acquaintance. My mom invited him." "Why are you so bothered? Everything's fine." "It's not about the party, Daniel. The problem is that lately you've been hiding too many things. Strange phone calls, secret papers, and now people I've never met." He gave a sharp laugh. "Listen to yourself. Are you spying on me now? What papers? What calls? You're imagining things. Maybe it seems normal to you, but to me it's not. What's really going on?" "Nothing," he said, taking my hand. "You're just tired. You've been working too much. You should rest." I pulled my hand away. "Don't talk to me like I'm a child. I don't need comfort. I need the truth. What's really happening?" "What do you mean?" His tone hardened. "Are you accusing me of something? Or my mother? What exactly are you implying?" He stayed silent for a long moment, then said quietly, "You're just making things harder. I want a normal family, a wife, kids, a home." "What's wrong with that?" "Nothing," I said softly. "If that's what you truly want, not if it's part of some plan." The rest of the ride was silent. When we got home, Daniel went straight into the bathroom. I sat in the kitchen, my mind spinning. Something was terribly wrong. I could feel it, but I couldn't piece everything together yet. I grabbed my phone and called Natalie, an old college friend who now worked in law enforcement. "Sorry to call so late, but can you help me with something?" "Depends on what it is," she said, her tone serious. "I need to know if there's any record or report on a man named Daniel Pierce." "Your husband?" she asked, startled. "Flora, what's going on?" "I don't know. I just need you to check." "All right, Anything else? Yes, his mother too, Eleanor Pierce. Natalie was silent for a few seconds, then asked softly, "Are you okay? He hasn't hurt you, has he?" "No, not yet. I just have a bad feeling." "All right, I'll look into it, but be careful." "Yeah." I hung up. At that very moment, a voice behind me made me jump. "Who are you talking to?" I turned around. Daniel stood in the kitchen doorway, hair damp, towel in hand. "Natalie," I said quickly. "Just an old friend from school. At this hour?" He glanced at the clock. "It's almost 11. "She works late," I replied. He opened the fridge, grabbed a drink, and leaned against the counter. "You're still upset about earlier, aren't you?" "I'm not upset," I said quietly. "I'm tired of you keeping secrets." He sat down across from me and took my hand. "Flora, I really love you. Maybe I don't always say things right or do everything perfectly, but I just want us to be happy. Let's forget the doubts and start fresh." I looked into his beautiful eyes, but this time, I saw calculation, coldness, and control. Still, part of me wanted to believe him. "All right," I said softly. "We'll start over. But this time it has to be completely honest." "Of course," he smiled. "No more secrets." The next morning, Daniel said he had an interview at his new company. As soon as he left, I went looking for the folder, but it was gone. I tore through the whole house. Nothing. He had taken it. He knew I was suspicious. That night, Natalie called. "Flora, I found something, but I can't say it over the phone. Let's meet." We agreed on a cafe near my house. I told Daniel I was meeting some co-workers. Natalie was already there, sitting in a corner, nervously stirring her coffee. I sat down. "What did you find?" I asked. "Flora," she said quietly, leaning closer. "Your husband and his mother are not who they say they are. Daniel Pierce has been accused by 2 women before, but the cases were closed for lack of evidence. He was charged with fraud and psychological abuse. I felt like a bucket of cold water had been dumped over me." "Fraud?" "Yes, same pattern. He targets single women with assets, marries them, then somehow gets their property transferred into his name. After that, they lose everything. And his mother, Eleanor Pierce, was never a principal. She was prosecuted about 15 years ago for forgery and property fraud. Now she works as a consultant for a real estate firm." I buried my face in my hands. How could I be so stupid? "Flora," Natalie said gently, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Are you safe? Has he done anything to you?" "No, he hasn't touched me." "And the house, it's mine." "Completely mine. I told them it belonged to my aunt." "Why lie?" "I don't know. Instinct, maybe. Something told me not to tell the truth." "Well, now it makes sense. They're after the house, so what will you do?" "I don't know yet," I whispered. "But at least now I can protect myself." When I got home, Daniel and Eleanor were sitting in the kitchen talking. They went silent the moment they saw me. "You're home early," Daniel said, forcing a smile. "Mom just stopped by for tea." "Good evening, Eleanor," I said, pretending everything was normal. "Hello, dear." "How was your meeting with your coworkers?" "Very insightful," I replied, looking at both of them differently now. "I learned a lot of interesting things." She set her teacup down and studied me. "Such as?" "For example, about new property laws, and the important details when registering ownership." I smiled faintly. I saw them exchange a tense glance. "Didn't know you were into that sort of thing," she said with a forced smile. "I wasn't before," I replied. "But now it feels necessary, especially with the kind of family we have." Daniel stepped closer, wrapping an arm around me. "We were just talking about weekend plans with Mom," he said. "How about we get out of town? Just the 2 of us. Take a break from everything." He was clearly trying to change the subject, and it almost made me laugh. "Sounds nice," I said. "But I already have plans. I'm going to visit my aunt." They exchanged a quick look. Eleanor leaned forward slightly. "Your aunt? The one who owns this house?" "That's right," I said, smiling innocently. "I haven't seen her in a while. I want to tell her about the wedding and show her the pictures." I turned to Daniel. "Do you want to come with me?" "You could meet her." His face went pale. "This weekend, I have something important. A meeting with the board at the new company. I can't reschedule? That's a shame, I said evenly. My aunt really wanted to meet you. I noticed Eleanor tug at her collar, looking uneasy. Where does your aunt live, Flora? Maybe I could come with you. After all, I'm family now. Thank you. That's very kind, I said sweetly. But this time I'd rather go alone. She's a bit frail, doesn't like too many visitors. Is she ill? She asked, raising an eyebrow. She's 82. Just age-related issues. Her memory isn't what it used to be, but she's still sharp. She reads every document carefully, even the gas bill. Eleanor's face tightened, and Daniel coughed awkwardly. Well, give her my regards, she said, standing up. It's late? I should go. After she left, Daniel tried to hug me, but I pulled away. What's wrong? He asked, frowning. You've been acting strange all day. It's nothing, I said, clearing the table. I've just been thinking. About what? Everything. Our life, our marriage. He sat on the edge of the table, arms crossed. And what did you figure out? I looked him straight in the eye. Daniel, tell me the truth. Have you ever been married before? The question stunned him. He blinked several times, then gave a nervous laugh. Of course not. Why would you ask that? I don't know. I just realized I know almost nothing about your past. No exes, no relatives except your mother. I barely know who you are. I don't know anything about my father either, he said, lowering his voice. He left when I was 5. I remember you saying that. But what's his name? His last name? Is he still alive? Where is he now? Daniel shot up, clearly irritated. What does it matter? He's gone and I don't want to talk about it. What's gotten into you, Flora? Nothing. I just want to understand the man I married. He avoided my eyes, and in that moment I knew Natalie had been right. This man was not who he claimed to be. He was hiding something. I decided not to push further. All right, I said gently. You have your interview tomorrow. Get some sleep. Yeah, you're right. Let's go to bed. You go ahead, I told him. I still have a bit of work to finish. That night I couldn't sleep. I listened to his steady breathing beside me while my thoughts raced. How had I not seen it sooner? I had married a con artist. But what should I do now? Confront him and his mother, or wait for the right moment to strike? The next morning, Daniel left the house for his interview. I took the day off and brought all my property documents to a notary. I needed to be absolutely sure no one had tampered with them. The elderly notary examined each page carefully before saying, Everything looks fine. The house is completely yours. No mortgage, no dispute. Can I find out if anyone has requested copies or extracts of my documents? I asked. We don't keep that data here, he said. But if you suspect fraud, go to the King County Recorder's office. They have the full transaction history. I thanked him and went straight there, requesting a detailed report of any changes to my property within the last 6 months. They told me it would be ready in 5 business days. On the way back, I stopped by Natalie's place. She was off duty that day and invited me into her kitchen for tea. So, she asked, stirring her cup, what are you planning to do? For now, I'll watch and wait, I said. I need to gather enough information. Before making a move, I have to understand their plan. What if they act first? If they think the house belongs to my aunt, a person who doesn't exist, they can't do anything legally. There's no proof. Natalie nodded slowly. Still, be careful. If they find out you're suspicious, who knows how they'll react? I know, I said, but I can't just sit still while they plot. I need to uncover everything, find out who Daniel and his mother really are, and track down the women who came before me. I wanted to know exactly what he'd done to them. When I got home, Daniel still wasn't back, so I took the chance to search everywhere: the closet, drawers, behind paintings, even under the mattress. Nothing. Either he'd taken everything or hidden it well. In desperation, I opened his work briefcase, the one he always carried. To my surprise, it wasn't locked. Inside, a laptop, a notebook, a pen, a phone charger, nothing out of the ordinary. I flipped through the notebook, meeting notes, phone numbers, random reminders. Still nothing suspicious. Then I felt a small, hard object in a side pocket, a black USB drive with no label. I hesitated for a moment, then plugged it into my computer. The drive contained harmless-looking folders: work, photos, documents. In work were company files, contracts, presentations, and spreadsheets. In photos were event snapshots, even pictures of us together. Nothing alarming, but when I opened documents, my heart nearly leapt out of my chest. There were scanned passports, marriage certificates, property deeds, wills, and transfer papers, all with Daniel's photograph. But each image showed him differently. Different haircuts, a beard, a mustache. The names changed too. Daniel Pierce, Daniel Sloan, Daniel Grant. He swapped identities like clothes. As I clicked through the files, a horrific pattern formed. Daniel hunted women with property, married them, then seized their assets, sometimes via wills, sometimes via gift contracts or fake sales, and then vanished. He even kept photos of the women, varying in age, but all wearing the same lonely, trusting expression. My throat tightened. Nausea rose. To him, I was simply another mark. Then I found a file that chilled me. A detailed floor plan of my house with notes, estimated value $800,000. Registered under a name. Transfer via gift contract. There was even a step-by-step scheme. Maria, build trust. Persuade to sign transfer. Sell the house. Next target, downtown apartment. I barely had time to copy the entire drive to my laptop and put the USB back before I heard the front door open. Daniel walked in, smiling as I pretended to be cooking. "Hey, sweetheart," he said. "How was your day?" "Good, and yours?" I asked, forcing normality. "Fantastic," he said, sounding thrilled. "They loved me. The salary's even higher than I expected. I start this Monday." He wrapped his arms around my waist from behind. "Congratulations," I said with a forced smile seething inside. "We should celebrate," he said. "I booked a table for tomorrow night. Mom's joining us." "Of course," I replied sarcastically. "Wouldn't be complete without your mother." He frowned. "You're still upset with her?" "No, just tired," I lied. "Let's take that weekend trip. Just the two of us," he suggested. "Great idea," I said with a fake smile. "You pick the place. I'm sure you know it well." "Sounds perfect. For now, let's have dinner," he added. I made his favorite dish and played the perfect wife, but every time he touched me, I wanted to pull away. How had I been so blind? How did I miss the lies in every word, every gesture? The next day, I met Natalie. She was waiting in her car 2 blocks away. I handed her the USB. "Everything I found," I said. "He's a professional con artist, Natalie. I'm not the first." She opened a few files and whistled softly. "Damn, he knows exactly what he's doing." Natalie found contacts for some of the women who'd reported him. One agreed to meet that day. "Come with me?" she asked. "Of course," I said. "What about your husband?" "He thinks I'm at work. Tonight I have a celebration dinner with his mother." Natalie shook her head. "That's dangerous, Flora. If it were me, I'd leave, get a divorce, and let him find another victim." "No," I said firmly. "Now I want him to pay." We met Anna, one of Daniel's ex-wives, at a quiet cafe outside the city. She was tall and thin, early 40s, eyes tired and hands anxious. When I showed her Daniel's photo, she trembled. "That's him," she whispered. "His full name was Daniel Sloan. He had a beard then." "I want to know what happened," I said. She sighed, clutching her cup. "We met in an English class. He was sweet, caring, said he wanted a family and children. I'd just gone through a divorce and lived alone. I owned an apartment downtown my parents left me. We dated 3 months. Then he proposed." Her story felt terrifyingly familiar. I nodded for her to continue. "After the wedding, he insisted we sell my apartment to buy a house outside the city. Said it would be better for the kids one day, fresh air, more space." "And you agreed?" I asked. "Yes. We found a house and paid a deposit. Then he asked me to sign the sale papers for my apartment, but something didn't feel right. I showed the contract to a lawyer friend, and he discovered it wasn't a standard sale. There was a clause transferring all funds to an account in Daniel's name." "What did you do?" I asked. "The obvious." I refused to sign, made a scene, and the next day he vanished. Took all his stuff and I never heard from him again. Did you report him? Yes, to the police. But they said there wasn't enough evidence. Since he hadn't actually taken the money yet, they couldn't press charges. What about his mother? Did you meet her? Yes, Eleanor Pierce. She always interfered, gave advice, judged everything. She was the one who found the house outside. The city said it was a great investment. Now I know they were working together. A real family business, Natalie muttered. Anna finished her coffee and continued. After he disappeared, I hired a private investigator. He found that Daniel had done the same thing to at least 2 other women. He took their houses, but none had solid proof. Would you be willing to testify now? I asked. Anna shook her head. No, I just want to forget. I was lucky to keep my apartment. I don't want to relive that nightmare. I didn't push. I understood. After meeting Anna, Natalie and I returned to her office. She showed me another file, an open case. The victim's name is Marina Wallace. Same method, Natalie said, flipping through the papers. He targets women, makes them fall in love fast, marries them, then finds a way to take their assets, houses, apartments, anything valuable. The only thing that changes is the method. Sometimes a fake sale, sometimes a gift contract, sometimes a will, but the ending is always the same. The woman loses everything and he and his mother disappear. They always avoid being labeled as clear-cut fraudsters. Once the victims get suspicious, they vanish and move on to someone new. But I have proof, Natalie said, holding up the USB drive. Everything he's done is in here. It might not be enough to arrest him right now, but if we catch them in the act, they won't escape. We planned for hours. By late afternoon, an idea had formed. Risky, but possible. I would give them exactly what they wanted, but on my terms. That evening, we met at the restaurant as agreed. Eleanor cheerfully talked about Daniel's promising new job and our bright future. I smiled and nodded, playing the naive wife. How's your aunt doing these days, Flora? She asked with fake warmth. Are you visiting her this weekend? No, but I called, I replied. She's not feeling well. Oh, poor thing. Eleanor feigned sympathy. Maybe someone should go check on her. She's resting. The doctor said she needs complete peace and quiet. The doctor? Daniel asked. What's wrong with her? She's just old, I shrugged. She said managing everything has become hard. She even mentioned thinking about transferring the house to me while she's still of sound mind. I saw both their eyes light up. Like predators catching the scent of prey. A wise decision, Eleanor said softly. At her age, it's good to have everything in order. Now's not the time to discuss that, Daniel interrupted. Let her get better first. No, this is important, son, Eleanor replied. It'll put everyone's mind at ease if things are settled. You're right, I said. I just wanted to talk to you first. My aunt wants to make it official and legal. Excellent, Eleanor almost squealed. I have a friend who's a notary. She can come to the house so your aunt won't have to travel. That would be great, I said. Leave it to me, Eleanor said excitedly. When should we go? I'm thinking this weekend, I replied. Perfect. Daniel, you'll come too. Of course, he said, trying to hide his excitement. I'll finally get to meet her. She'll be delighted, I smiled back, knowing inside that they'd taken the bait. Only one thing, I added. My aunt is very old-fashioned. She wants to leave the house to me because in our family, property only passes to the women. Eleanor's face stiffened immediately. How strange. But you're married now, part of a family. Maybe you should convince her otherwise. I tried, I said. But she's very stubborn. The two of them exchanged looks, clearly recalculating. As long as the house stays in the family, it's fine, Eleanor said finally. Yes, I thought, sipping my wine, but not in the way you think. For the rest of dinner, they eagerly discussed their plans while I sat there, struggling not to laugh. Two greedy people, blind to the trap they were walking into. That night at home, Daniel was unusually sweet, massaging my shoulders and whispering words of love. I felt only disgust. The next morning, I called Natalie and told her the entire plan. Are you sure about this? It's dangerous, she warned. I can handle it, I said. What matters is that you and your team show up at the right moment. Absolutely. But be careful. They're professionals. They're too blinded by the house to be suspicious. Trust me. 2 days later, everything was ready. I hired an older actress to play my aunt and got a real notary to cooperate. Natalie arranged for an undercover police team to be on site. That weekend, the plan began. I told Daniel we were visiting my aunt's house in the suburbs, but it was actually a rented home prepared just for that day, where my aunt and the notary were already waiting. As expected, Eleanor insisted on coming. She even brought her own notary, a fat, balding man with sweaty hands and shifty eyes. One look and I knew he was fake. This is Mr. Victor Hamilton, Eleanor introduced proudly, a very experienced lawyer who will help with the documents. It was the same Victor from the farewell dinner weeks earlier, now pretending to be a lawyer. We arrived at the small house outside Portland, surrounded by lavender and wild daisies. Lovely place, Eleanor said sweetly, but it must be hard for her to manage alone. She manages just fine, I replied, unlocking the door. Inside, my aunt, the actress, Nina Miller, was waiting. Her silver hair framed a kind face, her back slightly bent, her eyes bright behind her glasses. Flora, my dear, she exclaimed, spreading her arms. You finally came. I hugged her and whispered, everything's ready. She gave a small nod. Auntie, this is my husband, Daniel Pierce, and his mother, Mrs. Eleanor Pierce. A pleasure, my aunt said with a playful smile as she looked them up and down. Come in, let's have some tea. And who's this gentleman? She asked, pointing at the fat man. Oh, this is lawyer Victor Hamilton, Eleanor answered quickly. He'll help with the paperwork. Paperwork? My aunt squinted. Good, I invited my own notary too. He's waiting in the living room. When we walked into the dining room, the real notary, Mr. George Ellis, was there, along with another man in a suit, an undercover officer from Natalie's team. Eleanor frowned. Why are there 2 notaries? Just to be sure, my aunt said calmly. This is important business. Please, have a seat. Everyone sat around the table. Mr. Ellis opened a file. We're here to sign the deed transferring this house to your niece. Wait, Eleanor interrupted. Why don't we have some tea first and talk afterward? Tea can wait, my aunt said firmly. Let's handle the main matter first. I've made up my mind. I want to leave the house to my niece. She's the only one who takes care of me. Daniel was sweating, his hands trembling. He could tell things weren't going as expected. What about the husband? The fake notary spoke up. Shouldn't both names be on the deed? No, my aunt said sharply. Only my niece. In our family, property passes only to women. Eleanor was about to speak when the doorbell rang. Natalie walked in dressed in uniform with 2 officers behind her. Good afternoon, she said sternly. We have information regarding a fraud case connected to this address. Daniel went pale. Eleanor's knuckles whitened as she clutched her purse. What is this? Daniel shouted. I stepped forward, calm and steady. When I got married, I never told my husband or my mother-in-law that this house was mine. And thank goodness I didn't, because right after the wedding, my mother-in-law came to me with a very serious proposal. I told them everything. How they had pressured me to convince my aunt to sign the transfer. Their fake deed plan. All of it. Daniel's face flushed with rage and fear. You're lying! This is all false. False? I held up the USB drive. Then what about this? It contains all the evidence of your past victims, Daniel. Or should I call you Daniel Sloan? Or Daniel Grant? Eleanor jumped to her feet. Slander? We're leaving! Sorry, Natalie said, blocking the doorway. You're not going anywhere. We have enough to arrest both of you for conspiracy to commit fraud. I also have witness statements from the other victims, I added, and recordings of your conversations about stealing my aunt's house. My aunt stood, removed her glasses, and said with a satisfied smile, My work here is done. Thank you, Nana. You played your part perfectly. That was when Daniel finally realized it was over. He bolted for the side door but was stopped by the officers. He and his mother were handcuffed and read their rights right there. When it was over, only Natalie and I remained in the room. "I can't believe it went so smoothly," she sighed. "Their overconfidence destroyed them," I said quietly. They were too focused on the hunt to notice the trap right in front of them. The trial took place a few months later. With the evidence and testimonies from other victims, Daniel and Eleanor Pierce were convicted of fraud and forgery. I got divorced and started over. The house was still mine, but I saw it differently now. It wasn't just where I lived. It was where I learned a costly lesson about trust and deception. Sometimes I wonder if I should have just walked away when I first found out the truth. But then I remember, if I had, he would have found another victim. Now that justice has been served, I have no regrets. I still remember watching the door close behind Daniel, not with hatred, but with relief. Sometimes letting go of a liar is the only way to protect the pure part of your heart. I once thought love only needed trust. Now I know trust must also be guarded, with reason, self-respect, and the courage to say enough. Family, love, trust, they can wound us deeply, but they also teach us how to rise again, how to choose who truly deserves our faith. And you? Have you ever faced a relationship that made you understand the true value of trust? Share your thoughts in the comments. Maybe your story will be the one that helps someone else wake up. And if you want to keep walking with me on this journey of self-discovery, don't forget to follow. Because every wound becomes a lesson, and every lesson brings us one step closer to peace.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.